what is going to happen next. When each time we thought tapos na, it came back. And I'm sure all of us after Christmas, after the Omicron hit at the end of January, sabi natin siguro baka tapos na ito, baka wala na. But then we hear news now about Korea, about China, about Hong Kong, that they're locking down again. So we need those funds. Well, the government doesn't need the funds, people need the funds. And so we will still have to continue to collect as much as we can in preparation for any possible occurrence in terms of the pandemic. Baka may bagong strain, baka may babalik. But I don't think we will ever return to a time of lockdown anymore.
Senator, just before we go on the break, I was wondering if you can clarify your position on the oil price stabilization fund. Because there's been some talk in social media to report, and I don't know if you are. Of course, the appeal is that there will be subsidy when prices are high.
Yes.
But the downside is that prices will remain high because when global prices dip. Yeah. And there's the argument, of course, that the market is always more efficient in determining prices. Could you clarify your position?
No, I think it is not to change the price of the oil. It's to change the rate of change. It is to try and mitigate the rate of change. So let's say, if the price increase is from Sunday to Monday, instead of increasing the full, let's say we're going to increase by, I don't know, 5 pesos, let's say. Instead of doing it all in one shot, we do it slowly because we have a stabilization fund. There is no way to bring the price of oil down from the Philippines. We are at the mercy of the oil producers. We in the Philippines, if I'm not mistaken, are 0.07% of the fossil fuel market, and therefore have very little influence on pricing. And we produce very little in terms of oil production. Malampay is about, they say will dry up in the next 2 or 3 years. So yes, it is a very, very big problem. But the OPSF that I proposed is really to lessen the impact. And instead of making the impact instantaneous, we will try to make it happen over a longer time to give businessmen, consumers more time to adjust and to plan for the new regime of oil prices and oil products that would come to the Philippines.
Senador, ubay time pa?
We'll have to take a short break for now. Yes.
It's okay, sorry, Rolex.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've become the symbol of the human time clock. But the panel will still have a lot of questions for you, Senator Marcos. Unfortunately, we have to interrupt for a short break. So to everyone watching, don't go away. The Deep Probe SMNI presidential interviews will be right back. The Deep Probe, the SMNI presidential candidates interview. And right before the break, the conversation between presidential candidate Senator Marcos and the panelists was spanning several issues, including the geopolitical conflicts and the oil price crisis. Now we will resume the questions from the panels.
Mga nagabi po, Senador.
Good evening, Rolex.
Ang katanungan ko po ay tungkol sa power. Alam niyo po yung IPIRA, inati yung bansa natin. Electric Power Reforms Industry Act, IPIRA. Ngayon po, ganito. Recently, ang Malacanang po ay naglabas. Pinirmahan ng Pangulo, Executive Order 164, adding nuclear power to the energy mix. And among others, to study the viability kung pwede pa natin i-operate yung BNPP. At ang iba pang mga facilities para sa paggamit ng nuclear energy. Pwede mo malaman kung ano yung isip nyo po tungkol dito? Kasi po mangyayari sa sunod na termino, ang 18 milestones. Ito po yung unang hakbang lamang.
Marami talagang pinag-uusapan. Energy is hard. Ito, aaminin ko sa inyo, talagang pinag-aaralan ko, napakahirap ayusin. Dahil nga, yung ating sistema, the imperial law, marami talaga nakakontain dyan na kailangan pag-aralan ulit. Because ang reklamo sa buong bansa, both na consumers lamang at saka yung mga negosyante. Kasi lagi natin napapag-usapan mga foreign investors na nagre-reklamo sa power, pati local investors. Kaya ang investment sa Pilipinas is not capital intensive. Yung mga investment sa Pilipinas, short term lang, kuminsan hot money lang pumapasok, pasok-labas lang yan. It doesn't build anything. So, that is, it is a major problem. At kung titignan natin ang mga projection sa pangyayari, ngayon, just as a perfect example, narinig na siguro naman ng lahat, na binabaka sa eleksyon, magkakaroon ng brownout. Kaya dahil nasa gitna na tayo ng summer, ng tag-araw. Kaya yan ang maliwanag na maliwanag, kulang na talaga ang power supply doon sa ating requirements. At saka, yung idadagdag pa dapat natin para makapag-industrialize tayo ng mabuti. Kaya it's something that has to be attended to. In other words, kailangan natin lahat. Kailangan natin lahat ng makuha natin na power sources para mabigyan tayo ng mas mura at mas malawak at mas reliable na power supply. Ngayon, maaari nating i-expand yung ating hydro, i-expand natin yung ating geothermal, but there's a very simple idea when it comes to the energy sector. It's something called the base load. The base load is the load that never goes away. The demand that never goes away. Kahit gabi, kahit araw, ito na yung mga planta na nagpapatakbo. So that base load has to be satisfied. Kaya kung hindi umiihip ang hangin, paano yung wind power? Kung gabi, paano yung solar power? Kailangan pa rin ng traditional. Ngayon, doon tayo mamimili. Although it's not traditional for the Philippines, nuclear power is already considered a traditional power source. So it has to be looked into. Yung sa BNPP, nag-offer na, because if you, ang Korea has, I believe, 5 sister plants to the Westinghouse plant in BNPP. And they have offered, I always say it's ironic that the names of their plants are Core 1, Core 2, Core 3, Core 4, Core 5. Pero hindi tayo nagkaroon kahit isa. But they have offered to come with their technical people, and they have offered to come to give us an idea. Pwede pa ba ito? Because kahit pa paano, the BNPP, the Bataan Nuclear Power Plant, was supposed to go online with 650 megawatts in 1986. That's a long time ago. Marami ng bagong technologies, marami ng bagong requirements. So we'll see. We have to. I think we should be open to our Korean friends to come and to tell us if this is still viable or you have to do something else. When it comes to nuclear power as an idea, well, let's just follow the science. Because dito naging political sa Pilipinas. It's also political in other places. But in our particular case, the reason we have no nuclear power plant at all is pure politics. Did not really follow the science. So we have to look into it. Because, even after Fukushima, when everybody was saying nuclear power is we have to rethink, we have to, kailangan natin pag-aralan ulit dyan, mukhang delikado. Walang nagbago ng kanilang pagplano na pagpatayo ng nuclear power plant kahit saan. Amerika tuloy-tuloy pa rin. Sa France, the majority of their power is already created by nuclear power. So in the other countries, ganun din. So I still think that it's something we should examine. There are many new technologies. One of the ones that we keep reading about are the modular nuclear power plant. They start with a small one. Gusto mong palakihin, bumili ka ulit ng module, ikakabit mo ng palaki mo ng palaki hanggat gusto mo. Siguro naman kaya natin patakbuhin ang nuclear power plant. Wala naman, there's no reason na bakit hindi kaya ng Pilipino na magpatakbo ng nuclear power plant. So, it's something that should be part of the mix. Kasama diyan is COP26, where we decided to cut down on coal-fired power generation. And what happened, nagtaasan ng presyo kasi walang kapalit sa renewable. Ibig sabihin, yung mix ng renewable at saka traditional, kailangan talaga natin, we have to decide once and for all, what is the mix that's good for the Philippines. I think it's not going to be a static point. I think as years go on, and we develop renewables, we develop other sources of power, that mix is going to slowly shift towards renewables, hopefully, because that's what we want because of climate change. But nonetheless, that mix is still something that's up in the air that we haven't really determined what is proper and appropriate for the Philippine setting. But to make a short answer to your question, is that lahat kailangan natin. Kailangan natin palakihin ng hydroelectric, kailangan natin palakihin yung geothermal, kailangan natin paramihan ng mga power plant, kailangan natin tumingin sa mga bagong technologies, wind farm, solar, kailangan natin tingnan ng nuclear. At kung kailangan talaga, di balikan natin oil-fired. But oil-fired has become less and less attractive because of what's happening in the volatility of oil prices, especially in the last 2-3 years. Then with this new development in Ukraine, talagang kailangan pag-isip-isipan natin na mabuti. Kasi baka maipit tayo, pag tumaas na naman yan, hindi natin may patakbo yung planta natin, balik na naman tayo sa dati, nasa brownout na naman tayo. Now we have lots of coal here in the Philippines. The Chinese claim to have good enough technology. I've actually visited one of their coal-fired plants that na malinis na. That they're able to extract the carbon and they're able to dispose of the carbon properly. So, all of these things we need to look into. Lahat yan kailangan natin.
Well, after the generating companies, meron po tayong Transco. Maraming reklamo sa Transco. Senador, open ba kayo sa idea na katulad ng tubig, may west sector operator, may east sector operator, chop-chop natin ang Transco?
I don't think so. May economies of scale yan eh. Ang business model ng high tension na delivery na ginagamit ng Transco is the same as a tollway. You maintain the tollway, you collect toll, and that's how you pay for what you build. That's the same thing that Transco should be doing. Yun lamang, siguro hindi sapat. Sa amin lang, marami kaming pangangailangan dyan sa Transco. We were hoping to build a high tension cable from Ilocos Norte to directly export the power we are producing via windmills directly to Manila because that's where the demand is. And it's more profitable for us. But hanggang ngayon, hindi pa nangyayari. And I'm not sure, I'm not privy to the board meetings and the discussions going on in Transco. So I do not know quite why wala pa yan. But yes, it really should be a simple operation na kaya madali lang naman patakbuhin dapat yan. Kaya pag-aralan natin kung bakit nagkakaganon. You mentioned EPIRA. We have to look back at EPIRA. I think EPIRA might already have at least certain provisions in EPIRA are already obsolete. As a matter of fact.
Senator?
Yes.
I hope you don't mind. I'd like to switch topics a little bit because we have a short period to ask so many issues.
All right.
I'd like to ask about agriculture because you mentioned that in the last time you were here. One of the biggest problems that the sector is facing is the aging of farmers.
Yes.
One study I've read said that their average age is between 57 and 59. And the worst thing is their children don't want to go into agriculture, and this observation is supported by declining enrollment in agricultural programs of SUCs across the nation. And last, the Secretary of Agriculture last year said that we may be facing a critical shortage of farmers in as little as 12 years, and he said this last year. So maybe you'd like to share with us what your plans are regarding this issue.
Regarding the age of farmers getting older, not only are they discouraged to come in, their parents who are farmers are saying, wag na kayong pumasok dito, napakahirap ng buhay dito. Mag-aral kayo, pumunta kayo sa Manila, pumunta kayo sa city, dyan kayo magpagaling para hindi nyo na kailangan daanan itong dinadaanan namin. That's the state of the agriculture in the Philippines today. As a general rule, as a general concept, I think we have to really shift already from what is essentially still mom and pop operation and talk about agribusiness and talk about the industry of agriculture. And there are many things that we need to do to achieve that, to get to that point. See, let's go back to the issue of the age of our farmers and the young people who are not going into agriculture. If it is an agribusiness, if it is not the traditional farming method that we are always going through, that we have been doing for the last millennia, but move into something that is more high-tech, then that will necessarily need for the entry into more technically minded agribusiness practitioners, and that will bring the age younger immediately. I know already for myself, young people in their 30s who have discovered some new technology or have come across a new bagay sa atin to, gawin natin. And they do, and they have brought all kinds of new techniques to farming, but it's not yet extensive because there are no encouragements coming from government in terms of tax breaks, in terms of I don't really believe in subsidies in that regard, but I still think that we can improve the attractiveness of the agricultural sector to younger people if we use the most modern, most interesting technology. And the kids say they can geek it out. Right? They'll just pag-aralan nila ng mabuti. That's a very interesting. It will become a very interesting line of work.
Is there an important role for government to play? Because if you look at the public spending on agriculture in the Philippines, it's only about 1.7% of the national budget, far below what is being spent in other ASEAN countries.
It's been that, and it has been that way for a long time. I think we have really neglected agriculture because we had a system set up where the entire value chain was attended to by government. And of course, the private sector practitioners come into the picture during the trading and in the market. But that was dismantled in 1986 and has not been a replacement for it. So we have to do it again. And if we look at the countries that we are competing with in terms of rice production, for example, they're Thailand and Vietnam, the obvious ones. Their cost of production is lower. The labor segment of their production cost is 1/2 of ours. And that's due to mechanization. We have not mechanized at all. It's going to take, it's not a simple thing because we have to organize now to be able to mechanize properly, to use the big machines, the big tractors, the big harvesters. Yung nakikita natin sa ibang bansa na ginagamit na kalaki-laki, na ang bilis-bilis, siguro sa isang araw, ilang hektarya na nakukover nila. Pero ang average na land holding dito sa Pilipinas is less than 1 hectare. So hindi mo magamit yung mga ganung klaseng makina. So the way to do it, or the way we did it in Ilocos, was we organized the cooperatives. And in that way, we were able to take full advantage of economies of scale. And I think that's what we need to do here in the Philippines now. But there are other things that need to be done as well. We have, I think the fact that we are importing galunggong has been made very, very public. It's been very, very clear that it is quite a surprise for that but for us to get into that situation. But again, it really comes from a neglect and the agricultural sector. So the things we have to do the research and development for the new varieties, for the new yung kung nag-aalaga ng hayop, paano yung gagawin yung pagkalat ng mga inahin. Again, these are different schemes that we have to put together. In our fisheries, there is a very, very good potential for us kung ayusin lang natin ang ating kinukuhanan ng isda. Number one, bigyan natin yung mga mangingisda na mas malaking bangka. Maliliit lang yung bangka nila eh. And they have to go out already 12 kilometers kasi overfish na dito sa loob. And then of course, patrol so that maraming nagpo-poach sa atin. So we have to have all the best techniques and technologies for our farmers and for our fishermen. Fisher folk. So that's just the beginning of it. And then the support. Now, one of the biggest problems that the agricultural industry is facing right now in terms of crops is urea is 2,500 pesos now. And we know of many areas where farmers just didn't plant. And that kills our production. Taas na naman ang importation natin. Because kung minsan, kung kulang talaga. Kung pabayaan mo yan, tataas naman ang presyo, hindi na kaya ng tao. Kaya talagang kailangan ayusin yung agrikultura. So you have to support, the government has to support that. This question of urea, for example, siguro ang gobyerno lang bibili in bulk, hundreds of tons of urea, and then isama na yan sa production loan. Bago planting season, magbibigay ka ng production loan sa farmer, yung iba pera, yung iba seedlings, yung iba abono, the fertilizer, at saka yung pesticide. And then you could support them with new techniques, the techno demos, teach them what are the new plants, what are the new techniques, how you can save water, how you can save on the other inputs, etc., etc. And then the processing.